Hey, welcome back to another episode, boys and girls. This is the Duplication Nation MLM podcast. You definitely should go to duplicationnation.com, sign up for the free newsletter there and the MLM Bootcamp, 3-week survival training program, and it's all for free. If you're new to the podcast, I do a couple of these each month. They're not traditional podcasts or interviews. We call it Chopping It Up series because I get a partner each episode, and then we just chop it up about the business, personal development, what's going on in our lives, how the business is impacting us or impacting others. And it has become the most listened to, most highly respected platform, I think, in the world for the top leaders. Every episode that gets loaded, my phone blows up. I come out of my treadmill cardio, and I can always tell when the new episode's been loaded because of all the top leaders, CEOs, founders, multi-million-dollar producers who are commenting on that episode. This week is no different. We are joined by the lovely and talented Andi Duli. And Andi, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Andy.
Yeah, took us a while to find some times at work, but we finally did. Andy's on his phone, so for you guys watching on YouTube, sorry it's a little different view, but you gotta do what you gotta do, so the show must go on. I always wonder where to start these conversations, and with you, what comes to mind is the guy who had immigrated to the United States, delivering pizzas and listening to personal development audios or podcasts in his car to try to learn English. What can you tell me about that?
So 1998, I'm 18 years old, begged my parents for some money. We were poor, so all my dad's retirement and everything they had, and plus some more, they borrowed a bunch more and they sent me to America. And all I remember saying, if I can just get to the States, I'll be okay. I just needed a place to start, a chance, somebody to show me the ropes, and there I was going to go. So come to the States, a few $100s in my pocket, about 50 words of English by myself, 18 years old. And so I go to college at the time. I learned English. I go to school, and so after 3 years, Randy, I am still a freshman. English being my second language, and that was rough for me because I had 2 jobs. I had to pay for school. And so I get a letter from college at the time that said, your GPA is 1.6. Unless you can bring it up to 2.0, you will be expelled. And I did not want to be expelled. So I said, I'll quit. So I quit. I picked up a 3rd job. Meanwhile, I've got a young family going. Wife becomes a school teacher. And here I am, a delivery driver. And at this point, I'd been in the States for about 5 years. And all I knew at this point was you got to go to school, you got to get an education, you got to find a good job, and 40 hours a week, 40 years, and that's the way. That's the American way. And so I try again to go back to school. I flunked again. So the school route was out, and I'm feeling desperate. I'm feeling pessimistic. I come to America with a fire. Other immigrants can relate. I mean, America is easy, how we grow up. It's like, this is a piece of cake. I just didn't know the ropes.
And so tell people where you were coming from.
Oh, gosh, Albania. Grew up in one of the harshest communistic regimes in the world. We're under the Russian regime for a long time. And so, yeah, grew up, I was 10, 11 when the communism fell. So my wife at this moment asked me the question, honey, is this all you're going to do for the rest of your life? Which stung a bit. So so here I am delivering pizzas. And to go back to your question, I had found Dave Ramsey, a financial talk show, and he had recommended a book or two. So I had just started in this path of personal development, still trying to improve my vocabulary and learn English. And so I'm reading books. I'm going to the pizza place whistling with a great attitude. I'm applying for different jobs. I just needed a chance. And nobody hired me. And I'm like, I want to be an intern. I wanted to go into the insurance industry. I'm like, okay, maybe real estate. And that's when someone gets a hold of me and shows me this industry. But yeah, that's where I was, man. Just trying to learn English, two jobs, young family, struggling, honking car. But while I'm getting to reading and
Wait.
learning.
You say, whenever I'm usually talk to mutual acquaintances, like for you, I talked to Jonak and Wesley, Hawthorne, Harrison, Lyndon the third in the UK. And I say, hey, I'm chopping it up with Andy. Anything you think I should ask him about? And Wes told me, yes, you have to ask him about his self-honking car. And you just alluded to that. What the hell is that?
Yes, so I was so broke. I'd made some bad financial decisions, buy now, pay later, bunch of debt. First time and the only time I bought a brand new zero mileage car, and I was broke. I mean, my early 20s, and so had to let the car go. Wife and I were barely making the ends meet. I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I'd involved every apostle and saint I knew. And a friend of mine gives me a car. He's like, hey, to help you get back on your feet, here's a car. And it's an old Cadillac. Looked like a boat, sounded like a boat, Randy. And the first time it happened on my wife. I didn't believe her. And so second time I was, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. At this time, I'm in the business. So 3 o'clock in the morning, the car was loud, man. It's like, sounded like a boat in the garage, starts honking. I had to get up. I had to just unplug the battery. I didn't know how to stop it. And that car, I mean, that story, and by the way, I'm a believer, whatever you go through, challenge-wise, during building, the worse it is, the more inspiring the story.
Yeah.
And I knew that someday that's going to make me a fortune. But I remember times when I am pitching the business and, in a Panera Bread in a coffee shop, and there is a honking car, and I'm turning, yellow, red. It's like not my car. In a hotel meetings, I was parking at the very back of the parking lot. One time it was raining. My prospect saw me park far away. He's like, why'd you park over there? I said, I gotta walk, gotta stay healthy and fit. And I was just embarrassed the car would honk, but that's where I was.
Oh, wow. So you mentioned getting prospected to the business. Was that somebody you knew or a stranger? How did it happen?
First time was Primerica. I was intrigued. And I was already listening to Dave Ramsey's show, financial talk show, and there was an ad in the radio. So I go to the meeting. I mean, cheap suit. I just bought it for interviews, and he's pitching me the business. But the guy, he noticed the thick accent. He asked me my background, and I'm a delivery driver, two jobs. He didn't know my heart, and he just pitched it, and that he would not return. I mean, it was like a fast pitch. Thanks for coming in. He asked me if I, knew people. I said not very many. but I was hungry, man. I was just like willing to just find something and just grab on it. He pitched me, would not return my call. So that was the first exposure. At this moment, he kind of briefly mentioned to me passive residual income, which intrigued me. I was so intrigued. That's what did it for me. And then I met a guy in church. And he actually shared with me the business. I was so grateful for the opportunity. I invited him over my house. I grilled him and his wife a big steak. I mean, we went all out, fixed him a big dinner. I'm like, you gotta tell me about the opportunity.
Oh,
Yeah, I was a good prospect, a
yes,
prospect
you
that
were.
grills your steak.
I love it. The so what's I don't want to dominate. What do you got on your list? What's one of your things you want to chat about?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. One of them is before somebody starts, there may be somebody on this call or watching this that never made it big. And I would love to, and I was that guy one time, Randy. And then maybe later on, maybe once you make it, some things to keep in mind. But I came to the mastermind event with Jonak on borrowed money. A friend of mine, Aaron, just dragged me there. I've been in the business for 3 years at this moment, and as an immigrant hungry entrepreneur looking for a way out, and I knew that this was it. This must work. It's like, imagine if you're in a war zone, you've got your kids with you, and you find the path, and you're so committed to that path. But I was struggling. I lacked the skills. I lacked just in the network. But I go to this event. At this event, I don't know if you remember, you may have talked about turning hope into belief.
Oh,
And
yes, yes.
but you got so fired up, you grabbed the desk and you freaking, threw it across the stage when you finished. And now I'm on my feet. I was already on fire. I'm like fired up. And but that event, I evolved. I walked in as a pizza delivery driver, and I left as $1 million earner. Actually, I went back to my local meeting. I'm like, I gotta do the meeting. I threw the desk. I threw the table. I was on fire. Those guys were like, I don't know what happened to you, but man, this guy, I mean, he's on fire. So yeah, if we let's talk about maybe somebody on this call that's never made it big. Maybe they tough economy at the moment, recession. Every time we turn around, in the news, there is so much negativity and pessimism and a lot of darkness. And so we've come out of COVID, and where does somebody go? There's so many distractions. Can they make it in this economy? Maybe this industry is, we may have hit a rough patch according to some in USA. So let's talk to that person. Maybe you can, some things to consider, certain beliefs that made a difference in your life, in my business, in my life, and certain disciplines. And let's talk about that.
All right. Let me shut down my email and hopefully I'll have less of those bells going on. Yeah, there are people saying that network marketing is tough in the US right now. I think they're out of their mind. I think we're in a golden age at the moment, and I think it's going to get better and better. And if you've been around as long as I have, which is 44 years in this space, then you have a lot of empirical data to work with in terms of how our profession relates to what's going on in the broader national economy and the broader global economy. And we're counterintuitive. When the economy is doing really poorly, our business does really well. And right now, the economy is doing extremely poor. They can post all the statistics they want about job creation and slowing down inflation and all, but first of all those government figures are bullshit anyway. They create a consumer price index and they say, okay, we're going to monitor these X number of staples, and that'll tell us if inflation is high or low or steady or whatever. And then when something in the index goes up too much, they just take it out of the index and they replace it with another one, something else that is more stable in price. And it's not a Democratic thing. It's not a Republican thing. It's done by every administration. They try to present the rosiest, most optimistic picture. And unfortunately, they cross the line. It's like when we recruit somebody, our job is to present our business in the most compelling way. That's our job. But there's a line you can't cross. You don't lie about income. You don't lie about benefits. You don't lie about you don't lie about anything, right? You got to keep it truthful. Yeah, same as when we edify people. You know, we present them in a positive way, but we don't lie. If they're a drug addicted rapist, murderer, axe murderer, we can't just edify them as a leader and omit that information. We have to remain grounded in truth. The government doesn't do that. So anything you hear on the news, in the media, this is all distorted through the prism of how it's presented. I look at the real numbers right now of savings, almost non-existent. People just don't even have savings accounts anymore. Average person under 40, they don't have a savings account. And you can make the argument that, well, why would you want a savings account when the inflation is higher than what the bank is going to pay you? And that's true, but I think there's other ways to do that. For instance, the percentage of my investment that I call savings, I keep in a Wealthfront account, which is a automated trading platform using AI. And, my returns are higher than inflation. But it's not like an investment account to grow your wealth. I don't think of it that way at all. That chunk of money that I have in Wealthfront is simply my savings, like my rainy day savings. But I mean, most people under 40, they have no savings at all. You look at credit card debt, other consumer debt. If you look at talk to anybody who sells cars, right? And they will tell you, I ask them, how many deals do you get where they fall apart because the people can't get the financing? Talk to a real estate agent right now and say, how many deals do you lose because people can't qualify for the mortgage? It's a level of hysteria. You look at San Francisco, there was 2 hotels worth $700 million. And the owners just said to the bank, we're done. We're leaving. Here's the keys. We can't afford them anymore. $700 million hotel. There was a Margaritaville resort just last week. They invested $332 million opening it, Midtown Manhattan. The company who had it walked away from it. It got sold at auction. It got bought for $1,000. What? Wow. That's there literally was, they put it up, a foreclosure auction, and one guy made one bid of $1,000 and there was no other bids. Wow. And if you talk to lenders, you talk to real estate people, the glut of office buildings, the glut of other commercial properties like that's happening, where so many people are just walking away from it. So again, you can go by government statistics, or you can look at what's the reality of the world. What is the reality of most people? Do they have money to have good dental care? Can they afford to go to the doctor? What would happen if they had an emergency hospital bill, or some, a big car repair, something like that? The economy is in terrible space right now. And I think there's two dynamics making it really amazing right now. One is that the severity and the anxiety surrounding the economy is making people look at our business. So
Yes.
pretty much all the companies and the top leaders I'm working with across the board, US and international, they're in growth mode right now. They're having good growth because the economy is driving people to it. And the other dynamic that I think comes into play is the later millennial generations. They just grew up with such a different view of the world than my generation, which is the baby boomer one. They're digital natives. They were born on a cell phone. They've always had a cell phone since they were, 9 years old or something.
Right.
They're totally natives of that. And they didn't grow up with the belief that my mother and the other mothers of my generation and fathers, which was, you go to school, get an education, then you're going to get a job with a big company, and you're going to work for them for 40 years. And then you're going to retire, and they'll give you a gold watch, and you'll have a little pension plan, and you're going to have Social Security from the government, and you're okay. Somebody 20, 30, 35 years old today is saying, Social Security, that's the worst Ponzi scheme in America. And of course, in France, their government retirement program, in Germany, all over, anywhere in the world, most people are like, nah, that ain't really happening, right? So, and the idea of you're going to work for a company for 40 years, and then they just don't even have that. So their perspective is, so many of them, I just amazed that they're like you. I think even Native Americans and native whatever country in Europe, and native whatever country in Asia, and native whatever country in Africa or anywhere, they think more like immigrants, like you did when you came to America. Which is, okay, I got 2 jobs. All right, the school isn't going to work, and I'll drop school and I'll go to 3 jobs instead of 2 jobs, right?
Right.
There's so many 20, 30, 40-year-olds today, and that's what it's like they were an immigrant. They just say, okay, I've got my YouTube channel and my TikTok channel and my Instagram account, and I'm going to set up merch with t-shirts I'm going to sell, and I'm going to monetize my YouTube videos, and I'm going to drive for Uber 2 days a week, or I'm going to deliver for Grubhub 2 days a week, and I'm going to sell shit on eBay and flip stuff on Alibaba. And so the idea of what we were talking about years ago, which was this side gig or part-time vocation, they grew up with that. They love that. Where in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s, when we were recruiting in the space, we were trying to convince people that it was smart to have a second income. We were trying to convince them that, okay, you shouldn't rely on your boss, your job exclusively. You should create some options. You should create some various income streams. You don't have to do that anymore. Anybody under 45, you are speaking their language. You don't need to educate them about that. You don't need to convince them about that. So I think for the people who are young people, struggling people just beginning in the business right now, don't buy into the negativity, okay, because that's not real. The reality is, I think, I've said this on a few of these episodes, I think we're going to look back in 2030 and 2035, and we're going to say, man, 2024, 2025, man, that was the heyday of the business. Just like now, I still look back and say, man, 2008, man, the whole worldwide economy was just smoked. And my business was just, it was like shooting fish in a barrel with a bazooka. It was
Right.
so easy to build in 2008. And I think that's the era we're going into right now.
Yeah. So speaking of 2008 era, the first year I made my six-figure income in '08. '09, which, real estate market, and, during the GFC got destroyed, I did very well. And the economy was terrible, so much darkness in the news. But I was talking to the VP of sales of big corporations. I went after professionals.
Yeah.
And I now, and then we can talk about, the attraction part. Why would people follow you? And how, you mentioned personal development, professional development, where you learn and grow, and where you increase your influence, where you're able to attract higher quality of people. But I did very well because I was able, my mindset was, people are hurting. I've got something special. I feel obligated to share, and I shared it in a compelling way. And my focus was on, how can I help them? And it came through. And so very authentic, very real, and strong enough. And I had more prospects that I had time, which made my sorting through very easy. And the moment I sensed somebody was not interested, I just closed my laptop. I'm like, it's not for you. But during the time, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, during this time, the ones who are pessimistic, they'll miss it. And I look back in my career, and I mean, you've been here for 44 years. I am 44. You've been in this profession
Your
as long or
entire
longer.
life.
My entire life.
When you were born, I had just
I,
joined the Amway Corporation.
I was born in '79. You joined Amway what, '79? But in my business career, there had been times things were rocking. Anything I touched turned into gold. And then winter season, and during both seasons, there were people that were wondering, what's going on, what happened. There were people who were perplexed. There were people who took advantage of the opportunity. So this time is no difference. Your mindset and people's mindset, expectations, their beliefs, and their dreams is what makes a difference, because you can't change circumstances, you can't change the economy. We surely can adapt, but we got to be agents of hope. I think one of the biggest things I did during Indy, because I mean, you and I both know there's no secrets to the business, is just having an unshakable belief and being strong in the 6 inch between our mind. And maybe we can talk about how powerful the belief is. Like, I took my parents to in the Pigeon Forge in the Smokies, over the weekend, and I'm driving back home, and I've got the GPS in my car, going through the mountains, and it's like, I have no idea. I mean, I'm trusting the GPS. I have no idea if I put the wrong destination, this thing would take me in the wrong path, but the path looks the same. There's a bunch of, I'm in the middle of the forest. So our belief system and our expectations, they really serve as as a GPS in life. Whatever dream. this sentence had a huge, profound impact in my business career. It's helped me, I mean, do very well. And I read it at Napoleon Hill's book. And the sentence is, whatever the mind of man can conceive and it can believe, it can achieve. So three parts to that. So the first part, whatever our mind can conceive, meaning whatever vision we have for our future, whatever. So if I'm talking to somebody here today, or if I'm recruiting someone and they have no grand vision, they have no big expectation of their life, and and you mentioned how we grew up plays a major role, right? Sometimes our voids create our values later on in life, and weak times create strong people, right? And strong people, what's the saying? Strong people create easy times, and easy times create weak people, right? But having a grand vision, like what, like I've got this beautiful multi-million-dollar lakefront home in the Smokies. I mean, it's like private lake. Across from me, I've got one of the ACDC guys. On the right, one of the high executives of Coca-Cola. I think the CEO of Gillette, I think, has a home here. High generals. I mean, just the who's who, right? Uh, for a few years, this was a dream board. I mean, a picture on my dream board. It was like, I would love to have a home, lakefront home, because I grew up in the beach. I love to swim, but my wife loves the mountains. And so this went on my dream board. And I don't know how many people, probably most people have heard the power of pictures and how our mind thinks in pictures, but I wonder how many people take the time to design their future, to decide what they want, and to create a grand vision, to conceive it. First, it's a seed. Everything is created twice, right? You got to first create it here. And so many people, they're so busy making a life and being distracted day in and day out. They wake up one day and they look in the mirror and they see wrinkles. And they wonder what happened in life, and they become a statistic. So taking the time to create a grand vision and then believe that. I mean, our beliefs are so powerful, and it may not be our fault, but it's our responsibility to give up the disempowering belief and just tear them up and employ the right one. So the belief that made the biggest difference in my business was the belief in the industry. So strong, Randy, that truly when people would say that industry or that kind of business, I'm like dumbfounded. I'm like, well, how do you mean? There's got to be a story there. What's your story? And I and very curious, with a bigger need to understand them first, so I could maybe help them shed new light, because people make the right decisions based on the information they have. But my thought has been, maybe if I shed some new light, if they're open, maybe if I give them new information, that could lead to a new conclusion, which could be a different decision. So increasing the belief in the industry, in your company, in the product. And there are people that never take the time to listen to story. They're so powerful. And I would go for many, many years. So the company events, no negotiable, right? But my goal was a minimum of one event per quarter. Like I had to go. I had to invest in my, from the neck up, because that's where the difference is. And that's where I met good people. And I had to enlarge my vision, what I see, and my expectations, and so the belief in the company, product, industry, huge, and then the achieving. Like if people have that, I mean, the conceiving part, the belief part in themselves, like I went to Australia in 2015 for a month. Our company had opened up there. I went from city to city. I recruited people. I started new teams. I mean, we built a big business in Australia. And I thought, wow, you know, pick me up in a plane, drop me anywhere. Once you learn the skills, once you have the right beliefs, and if you have a desire to truly serve people, right? That's what it is. You can make it anywhere. And I can learn Chinese. Maybe if we're headed towards a Chinese dream, right? Maybe, right? Because I learned English. I've got this strong belief, self-reliant, because I'm willing to do the do. I'm willing to go through the stuff like, and I've always had this thing, Randy, that no matter what, put yourself in uncomfortable situations because it brings growth. Like I love that. I remember back in the day when I was going to church, English still, very broken. They were doing a mission trip, in a prison. I'm like, I'll go, sign me up. Like I wanted to be exposed to different experiences, and that they were trying to find who can talk to the prisoners. I'm like, I'll talk to them. I'll have a message, and the message, was like, hey, through prison, whether you're behind bars or outside bars. I mean, so many people are. But the point is, I was scared. I mean, there's some rough looking dudes there, but I'm like, I'll grow. We lost a friend of ours back in first year I came to the States, and there was a huge funeral, and there was a few people that got up and spoke a few words, and I'm like, I gotta get up, and my heart is pounding, and I'm walking towards the microphone. I'm like, I bet they can hear my heartbeats. I mean, I could hear them in my throat, but I had to put myself, in those situations so I could grow. And one foot in the comfort, one foot in the uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, how much more you can stretch and you can grow. It's a whole new world out there, and so on. And most of the pain is just psychological. So I'm thinking, growth is good. The more we grow, the more attractive we become, the better the life, and the better people we meet, and the more our income grows. So whatever your mind can conceive, whatever you can believe, and then the achieving part is the daily disciplines. I love working out. I'm very, very disciplined. And I found out that every time I push myself, it gets easier tomorrow. And the more I push myself, the easier it gets, and the more fun it gets. No matter what thing I'm doing, if I got into a new industry today, I'll go to the people that have the life I want, and I'll find out, what are the 3, 4, 5 disciplines, because there is not very many, just a few, and I'll find a way. It will require a bit of being uncomfortable and maybe looking like a fool and sounding like a fool, but there's no other way, right? We're not born a leader. We're not born, knowledge. We're not born just with a great mind. We're just born a baby. But having that mindset where you just learn and conceive and believe and do, and it just, the more you do it, you create this big will, and falling in love with the process that brings the results. So my question would be, what are the 2, 3 things I got to do daily over a period of time? And let me do it. Let me push myself. Let me just get it done. Let me win the day by noon. Let me, as you often would say, let me just do it, and then attaching a good emotion to it by, like it's not always sexy being in the gym, smelling and sweaty, and it hurts, but it's like it's more fun the next day. It's more fun tomorrow. It's more fun in the future, right?
A couple of things come to mind bouncing off what you just said. First, I think back of that sentence from Think and Grow Rich that impacted you so much, that impacted me as well, and I think millions of people. But what the human mind can conceive, that's part one, right? So how do you get to a place where you conceive more? And I think that's when the people you associate with become so important. The time you spend in self-development. What do you do to grow to enlarge the window through which you see the world? When I got started in the business, I went out and bought Robb Report magazine every month and that's where I learned about Alley loafers, which cost $200 a pair back then. And that's when I used to spend $200 on a car. I would literally buy a car at government auction for $200, and it would hopefully last me 6 or 8 or 10 months until I could save 10 more $20 bills aside that I didn't need to pay the light bill to be able to buy another car. And the cars and the homes, and then I started buying Architectural Digest magazine to look for the homes. And then when you get nowadays, it's podcasts and blogs and just finding people, the phrase you just said, people who are living the kind of life you want to live, right? So you've got to be able to conceive that. That's a big jump. That's a jump many people don't make, because what they conceive is, oh my God, it's Monday. Oh, thank God it's hump day. Thank God it's Friday. That's what they conceive of is, how do I survive through the week of this job that I hate so I can work for 5 or 6 days so I could have 1 or 2 days to live how I would enjoy. And unfortunately, that's usually wasted by playing video games or watching television or things like that, or doom scrolling 8 hours a day through social media. So they don't conceive. So I think you've got to put yourself in a position, in an environment where you will start to conceive greater things, more prosperous things, that you develop a prosperity consciousness, a prosperity perspective toward the world. Part 2 of that is believe, because if you don't believe, then you don't pursue it because you don't think it's a viable thing. It's so fascinating that you still, to this day, all these years later, you remember the exact theme of my speech, turning hope into belief, which was the basis of the book, Making the First Circle Work, is the basis, right? Because I believe that hope gets people in the business. Belief is what keeps them in the business. And what our job as leaders is, we've got to get people over that line. We've got to help them turn their hope into belief. And I think in our space, that's done through major events. Just as like Mastermind Event is a generic version of a major event that you would hope a company would do. But not all companies do that, right? As you well know. And many don't, some of them don't even have an annual convention. They don't have the field leadership, and they don't have the corporate leadership with experience, or they might have the experience, but they're not willing to invest the money. So, I can tell you, I'm just having a conversation with a company I work with the CEO the other day, and he was talking about how much money they lost on the last major event they had. But not in the context of, wow, we lost $200K on this event. In the context of, hey, we invested $200K in our field leadership, and now we're seeing the results, right? So, but that's conceive. Then you got to get to believe, and it's only then when you get to achieve. And I think how we, what the podcast you listen to, the people you associate with, going to events, are you putting yourself where you're going to conceive greater things, and then you're going to be able to develop your belief structure. And the other thing, when you talked about Australia, that came to mind, I call those the parachute skills. Meaning you could parachute into any country on earth, and if you know the parachute skills, you will never have to worry about taking care of your family. You will never have to worry about getting a job again. What are the parachute skills in our business? How to meet people, how to work a candidate list, how to make compelling invitations, how to utilize external source tools to make presentations. So notice I say external source tools, not learning how to become an amazing presenter. That will happen, and you want that to happen, but that isn't the parachute skill. The parachute skill is being able to say, hey, if I send you a link to a 3-minute video, would you watch it and call me as soon as you're done? Hey, would you, if I buy you a ticket, would you come to this leadership academy that we're doing? Hey, if I pick you up and we go together, would you come to this cash flow presentation we're going to have? Right. Using tools, third-party or external source tools to make the presentations. And then, of course, the follow-up. And I would amend what you say about going to China or whoever. First, let's forget China, because they're not free enterprise, right? Forget anything communist, but any free enterprise country in the world, if you know those skills, you could parachute in even without having to learn the language, right? I built a team of 20,000 people in Russia. I know less than a dozen words in Russian. I built 20,000 people in Ukraine. I know less than a dozen words in, I probably had, I don't know, 8,000 people in Italy. I think the only Italian I know is Tomba la Bomba, the skier, back in the day at the Olympics. Because all you need is to find somebody bilingual with a dream in that country, and you can work with that person, right? And then you end up with 3 people or 5 people who you meet, and they speak your language and the host country language, and they buy into your belief, and you bring them in and you plug them in and you teach them those parachute skills, and it'll take you where you want to go. And that's kind of the motivation Jaime Lokier and I of doing duplicationnation.com is I mentioned that MLM boot camp. That's kind of like, we pattern it after boot camp. If you join the military, they send you to boot camp and they teach you all the basic skills. And those are the basic skills in our stuff. And then you got to be prepared and recognize and prepared and inoculated. Hey, there's going to be dropouts. There's going to be rejections. Right. There's going to be no-shows. You got to, ahead of time, we're preparing you. So when it happens, you're not going to get caught off guard. You're going to recognize it's not a failure on your part. People drop out. People drop out of school. People drop out of marriages. People even drop out of life. So network marketing is going to be no different. There are going to be people who drop out. There's going to be rejections. It's the same in life. You're going to walk across that nightclub and invite someone to dance, and they might say no. You're going to send someone a tap on some dating platform, and they're going to swipe the other way to block you. It's just part of life. Same thing's going to happen in our profession, right? So if you're willing to do the work, which you did, which is, hey, I'm going to learn the parachute skills.
Yeah. And
then you got to the mastermind event and you went from hope to belief. And once you have belief, here's the thing leaders got to know is once you get team members to have belief, they're never going to quit. Because they'd be crazy. Why would they quit? They know it's going to work. You're never going to quit something if you know it's going to work. And when the belief happens, then it's like, people join, oh man, I hope I can win a bonus car. I hope I could earn that trip to the, Riviera. I hope I could. No, but once you have some experience and it works, you're never going to quit, because why would you? It would be insane. So that's why building the two events, creating campaigns, and not just announcing events, but promoting events. Knowing, hey, if I can get 18 people from my team at that major event, 5 of them or 7 of them or 8 of them are going to reach the tipping point from hope to belief. So now I got 12. They didn't, but I got another event 4 months later. And of those 12, 3 of them or 5 of them or 6 of them are going to go from hope to belief. And some people do it at their first major event. Some people don't do it till their 18th major event. Doesn't matter. As long as you can keep them in the game and keep them coming to events, at some point, they're going to reach that tipping point. And when you get that, the other part of the tipping point is you get them to the point where they're making enough money so they can pay for their self-development, their personal products, the marketing materials they need, and the events. And you can get them to that point. So now they don't have to take it out of their pocket to go to the event. They don't have to put it on a credit card to go to the event. So the sooner you can get them to that break-even point, then again, now they're just going to keep coming to events again and again until at one of them, somebody's going to get up on that stage and tell their story, the story they perfectly relate to. Just, oh my God, she is a single mother who came from an abusive marriage, who lives in a small town and didn't know a lot of people, exactly the position I'm in right now. And she made it, therefore I know that I can make it.
Yes.
Or, hey, he was an immigrant with a couple $100 in his pocket who barely spoke English, and he was delivering pizza. And now he's got his dream home in the Smoky Mountains. He did it. I know I can do it too.
So the psychology and somebody's belief and mindset is the hardest work. People sometimes come with, not the right mindset. They think it's only hey, just teach me the how very quick, and with no dreams, no vision, no commitment, anything we've ever done in life that we have done well. And I challenge anybody watching this, go to something that you're proud of. Were you 100% in, or were you 1 foot in, 1 foot out? And whenever you go all in, it affects your belief system, and it comes through. I mean, the words we speak are a small part of communication, and being in a people business, people can see through you. That's why doing the work on yourself, on your skill set, on your psychology, and that's why it's harder to work. Or Jim Rohn's phrase, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and if you do that, you'll make a fortune. But another thing, in my opinion, Randy, is you increase your influence. There is a great phrase, I think it's Thomas Jefferson, that once said, there is a natural aristocracy among men, the grounds of which is virtue and talent. Meaning there is this aristocracy, there is this ladder that you can go as high as you want to go, the grounds of which is your virtue. It's who you are, it's who you become, it's your character, and your skill set, and your mindset, and your what you give into the marketplace. And another thing that had a big impact in my life, it was whenever I heard this concept that in the sight of God, our Creator, we're all the same. We're all very valuable. But out goes our value, our skill set, what we can do for people in the marketplace, and back comes the paycheck, the money the contribution we make. And out goes the value, back comes the money. When I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, all I have to do is just become more, increase my virtue, increase my skill set, increase my master, my character. And so by doing that, I can pour more into the people, the prospects, the team members, into the marketplace. And the marketplace always pays fairly. Maybe there are certain times, things haven't quite caught up yet, but it always long-term pays fairly. So it's easier to just play the game right and become more and do more. But you can increase you can become the top earner in your company. You can go, here I am, somebody that went to this event on borrowed money. And I mean, gosh, most of my dreams, or not most, but a big chunk of my dreams have come true. Things that I never thought it was possible. And you got to have more dreams and reasons to keep you growing and doing. But it's fascinating what you can become if you invest in both character and skill. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'm curious, what are you doing to help you become? Do you have any personal development routines, favorite resources? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So we're talking earlier about the power of an event. I look back today, and sometimes the events will cost some money and some time, but oh my gosh, you pay the cost, but the value of how much it can stretch you, or the people that you meet, or what you can become, it's fascinating. And so in 2014, Randy, I went to this event, and I'm printing money at this moment, and we could build a team doing over 40 million a year in sales. We're just building, growing. I mean, I'm like debt free because I had three financial goals in mind. One of them was like my basic necessities. I want them to be covered by the income of by the income of my investment. Just my basics: insurance, gas, food, car. I mean, just the basic stuff. Got this big check from my business, but I'm like, I want to be financially independent. I want my life not to depend on somebody else's decision making. And then once I got that, I'm like, okay, now I've got a great lifestyle. I go to Europe, a few weeks every summer. We travel somewhere exotic every 3 months. Recharge the battery. We have a blast. Then my second goal was I want my current lifestyle to be covered by the income of my investments, and the third was like my dream lifestyle, right? But I went to this event in 2014 that I would have sold my home to have paid for that event. And for me, I mean, people, sometimes you are at different levels in life, or sometimes based on what you go through. But I mean, business was rocking, and I was a mess personally, man. I felt lost. Here I am, confidence and rocking the stage and rocking the business. Anything I touched turned into gold, but inside I'm feeling empty. So I go to Date with Destiny. Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins. And, they're different people have different opinions. But for me, I mean, that event, 9 years ago, just, re- rearranged my values, rearranged. It's like literally, I feel like at that event I said, I am just going to live life based on what's important to Andi Duli. I felt like I went to my deathbed and I said, God, please send me back one more time. Let me do it right this time. And I feel like I was in my deathbed and God answered my prayer, send me back. and I'm doing life based on what's important to me, my values, my priorities. And it's such a freeing emotion, you know, not to have regrets and have this pressure on your shoulders. So always huge on events, people that have done big things in the industry, in different industries, books. But I've got a 20-minute drive to go, to go to my gym, 20 going, 20 coming. I mean, I'm in the mountains, so I cannot make any phone calls. It's choppy. I drop calls. So it's like my time, my time to learn. And then I'm big on cardio. I'm in my zone to cardio, man. I can be on the stepper for an hour, like returning emails, talking to people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been on the stepper for an hour. My VO2 max is through the roof. And so my gym time, my going to and coming back, it's like it's just my personal growth, my professional growth. And there's so many resources, so many podcasts, that there is so much out there. There is not a shortage of that. It's just dedicating your time. And you're right. I've heard you say before that it's the best thing to do it early in the morning, when you wake up. And my routine is basically just the working out and the personal growth early in the morning. It just sets the tone. I'm clear. I'm awake. I'm high energy, and then come back with a big salad for breakfast. And I'm the guy, and I'm like, man, let me conquer the world.
So, I think what jumps out at me is how pivotal it was that one of your first exposures to English was Dave Ramsey. I don't agree with everything. His philosophy is a little different than mine. He's more of a financial planner. I'm more of a prosperity coach. Because it's about how you want to do life. Like, I think of him as my brother-in-law, but he's not actually married to my sister, but they've been dating for, I don't know, 8 years or something like that. Really nice guy. I'm really glad she found him. I adore him. Him and I are so different in terms of money and, financial planning and stuff. I was just shocked, at how he's remodeled his house. He's got a lot of built income properties, and he bought this big place and he turned it into 4 or 5 different apartments that he rents out. And so he's building equity all the time. But we were having a cookout, and then he was like, okay, I have to unplug the fryer to plug in the coffee maker. Otherwise it blows the circuit maker. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Come on. He's very successful. This is not like my grandmother. When I grew up, I remember going to my grandmother's house. That's what would happen. If somebody ran an appliance or plugged something in, it would blow a circuit breaker. And it was this fuse. It would blow a fuse, and you'd have to go down and replace the fuse. And he bought this old property. It was built like 100 years ago. It's got that kind of thing. But he could easily just bring in an electrician and say, okay, let me spend $30,000 and rewire the whole place. But he's just not going to do that, right? It's like, come on, I just unplug this one and then I plug in that one. And I was thinking about him and my sister last week. I was just going through some of my financial planning and stuff. And I'm thinking probably and he's about my age, so we'll probably die in the same time window. So my sister will be the witness to this. But I would expect by the time we die, I will probably have made 20 or 30 or $40 million more than he did. But he'll probably have more money in the bank when he dies than I will. I just feel that, and I'm okay with that, because it's just a philosophy. His philosophy is, I need to be sock it away. Where my philosophy is, I want to buy memories. I want to build memories. I want to have incredible experiences. And I don't need that much money in the bank. And the thing that I think you got from Ramsey that I think is so good is you say, okay, so my first goal was, okay, if I can just get my survival money covered by the money I earn from my investments. And there's so few people who understand that simple, basic, fundamental. And then you did it like, okay, so now my current lifestyle, what would I, and then what my dream, how can I make enough money? Like my buddy Russ, I remember he called me one day, he said, Randy, do you realize this is the first year of my life I made more than $1 million from my investments? Not because he makes a lot of money. He's a very successful entrepreneur like me, but it was the first time he made $1 million on his investment. And it was, he was sharing his personal victory with me, because we are that, bond that way. And I'm really much about that too, because as a prosperity guy, at first I thought, okay, so how much money do I, if I could have $1 million, then I would be secure. Then when I had $1 million, I said, well, I'm not really secure. I need $10 million. So I thought, okay, when I can have $10 million, I could be secure. And then when I had 10 million, I was like, oh, that's not secure, because I kept thinking about the sands running out of the hourglass, which is, okay, if I got $10 million and I cost me X amount a month to live my lifestyle. And you know what? The X amount a month for me, it's a pretty big number. If you watch the Chopping It Up I did with Jordan Adler, it's funny. We're like, people, I'm sure they're watching that saying, these two assholes sitting here whining about how it cost them $8,000 to get their Range Rover repaired, or $20,000 to get their Aston Martin out of the shop, or I get that, and I never lose sight of where I began. I lived on $7,000 a year. I lived on $11,000 a year. I know what rolling up pennies to take and buy gas with. I've been on that. But now I'm at a point where I really do. I mean, I'm going to have this tooth replaced, right? I'm just through the process. I got one more thing. It cost $8,000. $8,000 to fix a tooth. Like, how could that be? And I'm like, how do poor people live? I don't remember it. And then I do remember. Oh yeah, when I was poor, I didn't go to the dentist. My teeth were rotten in my mouth. Hey, how do people they don't, they live without. And I don't want to do that, right? I worked really hard so I don't have to. So I have a big number, which is my financial footprint. And by the way, people shouldn't do this to start. What you need to do is like every new team member, I said, like, let's reduce your financial footprint as small as possible right now. Do you need to spend $180 a month for your cable, or $80 a month? Can you get by with a package of $30? Do you need this? Do you really have to spend $1,500 for Tay-Tay concert tickets, or is there something better you could do with that money, right? But then when you do create financial security for yourself, then you want to live your dream lifestyle. So that's what I've done. But even with $10 million, I said, well, shit, with what it takes me to live, if I live till I'm 90, I might not, or if I live till I'm 87, and I saw it that way. It's okay. So here is this fixed amount of, whatever the number is. Everybody has their number. So whatever that number is, and then say, okay, so how, if it's X amount a month, how many months would it be before that runs out? And, for me, I'd like to think I'm leaving a legacy. I've got people and charitable organizations and causes that are near and dear to my heart that are in my will, that I want there to be money for those things after I'm gone. But that's when I came to recognize, okay, no, I don't want to be in a situation of how many months will this number survive versus, okay, how do I get my money working for more money, which produces more money, which I can get working to produce more money? How do I get so I can wake up every morning wealthier than I was the night before when I went to sleep? And that's a huge hole in our business right now of people who don't have financial literacy. And you know, that's why I put that chapter in my direct selling success book about becoming wealthy, not just Instagram rich. And that's why literally every year for my top people, I have a retreat. And my client companies, I do it for their top people. And I build that right in the contract up front. I need you to know every year we're going to have a couple of days and I need time with them. And I'm going to be doing that high level leadership stuff. But half a day of that retreat every year is going to be devoted to financial literacy, how to take, how to put your money to work. Because I can't tell you how it's heartbreaking to me how often I get calls and they're like, Randy, I just got terminated from my company. They changed the comp plan and they did this, or the company was sold, or there are owners who say, well, that person, they're making 100K a month now. They're not really bringing in a lot of new people. If I terminate them today, I'm going to save 100K a month. And most of their people are going to stay because they're locked up with their bonus check. And they do it. That does happen. And I'm shocked how many of those people don't own their cars, don't own their houses, still are in debt, live beyond their means, spend more every month than they take in, and they have no financial literacy at all. And for me, COVID was a real wake-up call. Because I was supporting like 5 families through that, including myself, just people that, nobody I don't want to affirm that, cancel that. There were many people in my family who had no lick of financial sense, had no preparation for that. I have dear friends who were undocumented and they couldn't work and they had no way of survival, and just people who were dear to me who were not prepared. And so it was a real wake-up call for me that I took a financial hit after those 2 years. I was like, I'm actually in worse shape than I was 2 years ago. And I've been saying this for, I don't know, 30 years now. Like, hey, I wake up every day wealthier than when I went to bed. And I've been saying that every day for 30 years. And all of a sudden with COVID, I realized, no, I lost like $1 million worth of business instantly in April of 2020 that I wasn't prepared for and didn't really, because to me, I'm just like, well, I can always earn more money. So I don't need to be that maniacal about how OCD I need to be about planning and setting aside and growing my wealth, because I have a very high income earning capacity. But that was a good wake-up call for me. That was one of the things, by the way, Wes, maybe it was Art or Wes or both, I don't know, said, Andy's good with investments. He's gotten to the point where now he's done really well, not just from his bonus check, but he's put his bonus check and been smart with investing.
Here's why. I have a high value on building wealth. And our life always demonstrates our values. Look at how you spend your time. Look at how you spend your money. Look at what you think about. Look at how you fill your space. Look at your inner dialogue. And unless wealth building is not on your top 4 or 5, but you keep preaching it, you will self-sabotage yourself. And there are two different skills when it comes to money. One is to make it, and Amirina talked about the basic skills of making a list and inviting, having a good, compelling invitation, and the follow up and the presenting and the third party tools and getting people started and promoting for events and just just keep turning, keep repeating that over a period of time, and then become better so you can better connect with people, be more likable, develop a better personality, and pour your heart out. I'm a believer. Like I went from 3,000 a month, Randy, to 40, 50,000 a month within 5 months. Now I've been fighting, me, gotta pay the bills. It's all about me. Ego is huge, bank account is low. And it's like I hit the rock bottom and I had a mental shift where it became about other people. It was so free, man. It's like, let me see whom I can bless and help. I'm happy that I went through this painful, experience. Now I can minister and serve and help people in that area. But once you learn the basic skills, once you learn and grow and do, so the second skill on the wealth is you got to keep it, because a lot of money with no skill to keep it and grow it can become very stressful. There's a good story in the Bible that this particular master gives a servant a talent, which at the time was quite a bit of money, and one he gave him three, the other he gave him five, and this particular master goes away, and the one that had five thought, how can I double it? How can I grow it? Takes chances, does things, he doubles it. The one who had three, same mindset. How can I do more? How can I grow? So the quality of your thinking, the quality of the questions you ask, right? How can I grow? How can I multiply? What can I do with it? And he doubles it. And the one that had one, man, he was just afraid. Tough economy. What if I lose it? Where's my next lunch gonna come from? Whoa, the master thing. I am just gonna put it under my pillow, or maybe I'm gonna dig a hole and put it in. And the master comes back and he goes to the ones with the five and said, what did you do with it? And the story says that he had doubled it. And the master said, hey, give him more responsibility, more money, more to manage and lead, because he's a responsible human being. He's a good steward. And the one who had three done the same thing, more responsibilities. But the one who was afraid, that had just one, and he dug it, the master said, take it from him. Take it from him and give it to the one who has more. And that parable should maybe help us understand why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And it's in the thinking. I mean, I don't know who said this once, but if you're to take all the money out of all the people in the world and put it back in the system, the wealthier will end up being wealthy again, and the poor will end up being poor, because they have a different way of thinking. It's a different mindset. And so my thinking is, when the sky is blue and the birds are chirping and the sun is high and it feels amazing, my thinking is there is a winter coming. The winter always comes. And because of that, I have to prepare. Maybe because I grew up most nights going to bed hungry, maybe because I have a few families as well, that I have, nieces and nephews I sent to private schools, and my parents combined make $600 a month, with master degrees, highly educated. And my sister makes us some $500 a month back home. And so I've got people, I have families, I have causes. I want to be a good steward. So during the summertime, I think of the winter. And when it's winter outside, when it's icy roads and cold and you can even leave, man, I'm thinking, the summer will come, the beach will be nice and warm, and I'll get my sexy tan back. And I think about what it will be like when I'll take my shirt off again, I'll just lay in the sun. And you have to think like that. But it boils down to really the desire to build wealth. And here's for me, not just for the money, but how much it will stretch me. How much, man, I find joy in giving. I find like I remember, asking my dad once, Dad, what are some other dreams that you have? Mom, what are some other dreams that you have? And making another dream come true, and them coming to me with a tear in their eye and saying, thank you, like, I'm proud of you. Man, no feeling, like no feeling that can buy that. And then giving to people and causes, gosh. So it's like, why not earn more? Because you earn more by becoming more and by giving more, right? The seed of receiving, is giving. So you grow, you fill your mind, and you just do. You just face one foot in the known, one foot in the unknown. You learn and give. You learn and give. You invite all experiences, and you make a difference in the people, and you go serve. And the ones want to be the first, they have to learn to be the best servants. And with that kind of heart, and with that kind of mental toughness and desire to be filled and learn and stretch, why not build wealth? I mean, why not? And then go give it all away, and it becomes fun. But the other side of the story, Randy, is if somebody has a check for $1,000 a month in residual income. I'm doing this out of my phone. Otherwise, I would have pulled my calculator. What would that be like in asset wise? How much of that would they have to
Yeah.
make $1,000 a month? If somebody makes $5,000 a month in passive income, and I believe if you're teachable, if you're coachable, if you're humble, because most people come with an ego. Man, I need to start there. Yeah. A place to start. That's all we need. There's a place to start, a place to serve. But 5,000 a month, if you learn the skills, if you do it right, if you stay learning hungry, and you want to make a difference, and you just do. I mean, you lean forward and you do. I think you can easily, 2-3 years, and depending where somebody is on their journey, maybe less, maybe longer. But 5,000 a month, I would think it's like having a couple of $1 million in the bank. And what if you can build it the next 2 years part time, without taking away from what you're already doing, but as a side gig where you learn and you find a product that you love? As you say, you would call your mom, say, Mom, I know your money's tight, but you gotta try this, you gotta buy this. This will make your life better. Like when you find that kind of product, and where you have the strong belief in this tough economy, where can you go and put $2 million in assets the next 2 years? What if you apply yourself more, commit more, and you want to play it at a higher level, and you decide to build a $10,000 check? I mean, that's a few million in the bank. And so you got to be mindful of like I was talking to somebody just the past few days that's thinking about leaving their business at over 20,000 plus a month. And I'm like, you have no retirement, 20,000 a month. You haven't done the business, you haven't built in years. That's millions of dollars in assets. I mean, let me tell you exactly how much it's worth, and let me share with you what you were walking out of. And by the time we were done, they had a different perspective. So, but for me, it started small. I wanted to get another car. I wanted to buy some better clothes than just Walmart clothes. I wanted to become debt free. And by the way, a lot of respect for Amway. But when I had 40,000 in credit card debt, Andy, I met this Amway guy. He found my pain. And my pain was this 40,000, 45,000 debt. Now, when you make 2,000 a month, 45 grand, just credit card debt at 24% is a lot of money. And
Oh,
it was so,
that's back then 24%. Now it's 30%.
yeah, so stressful. And when you have a lot of stress, it shuts down your vision, your imagination, your dream building. And I've got this donkey on the back that's like more of a gorilla that's weighing me down. The guy found my pain and he knew how to keep scratch it where I felt it. And all he had to say was, Andy, come and partner up with me. I would love to help you become debt free. Come and lock arms with me. Let's work together on paying that 40,000 plus in credit card debt. Every time he invited me to join him to pay my debt, my knees would shake. It's like, oh my gosh, if I was not in the business, I would have joined anything. I would have joined a car washing program because the debt was so stressful. And I think, you just got to be mindful of, whenever we approach people, it's like, hey, what do they want? What's the pain? Let me get on the other side of the table. Let me look at life through their point of view. And not everybody wants to build wealth. Maybe down the road, maybe they want to become debt free. Maybe they want to just nicer clothes. Maybe they want to make an extra $500 a month. My sister, an extra $500 a month, you would change her life. People around the world are praying. People in America are praying during this time for an extra $500 or $1,000 a month, so they can have a good Christmas and they can buy their children Christmas gifts. So you don't have to have this big talk just because you see big or you've made it big. Actually, to relate with the people, talk about debt free, talk about financial security, and then as you get there, you can see further. When you get there, you can see even further. But you want to relate with people. But man, wealth building, Randy, it's a high value to me because of what it will make of me, how many people I can impact. And I just want to be a good steward and multiply.
It's so many things bounce up, bubble up based on what you're talking about there. I think I can tell you already, I will be shouting this episode to the rooftops to people. You got to listen to the Chopping It Up with Andi Duli. It's so inspiring. It will help your belief. And that's not necessarily the objective of these. The ideas we're trying to prepare people for what the business really is and what are the skill sets they need to develop and help them form the right mindset and learn which skills and give them actual training too. But this show, and then the one just before this, the one that's up right now, you may not have seen it or heard it yet, Byron Belka. It's 2 hours and change, and I want every person in network marketing to listen to that episode because I just feel like it's the thermonuclear top secret recruiting tool that you wouldn't give it as a step one. You wouldn't just give it to a casual prospect. Nobody's going to watch a 2 hour and 15 or 20 minute thing. But for somebody who's serious, an entrepreneur, and somebody who knows how the business works and they're evaluating your company, I'm going to tell them, go listen to that show with Byron Belka and just the belief that and I feel the same way about this one that we're doing now, that your story and the way you tell it is just going to empower people in so many ways. But in that episode with Byron, we talked about this exact subject, same thing, of when you get somebody in Ecuador or Mexico or Honduras or so many places, $500 a month, they're in the top couple percent income earners in the country. Here in the United States, in UK, in the most Australia, some of the developed countries on earth, an extra $800, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. It's so life transformational for so many people. I mean, I think of those years I struggled. Oh my God, if I would have made $500 a month extra, it was. And I've had some big moments in my life, right? Where I remember when I first broke 50K a month income in my bonus check. I remember 75K. I remember 100. 100 was it's like birthdays. There are certain milestone ones. And so 100K a month, that was a big milestone one for me. And I've had deals where investments where I paid off, done really well. And you get a check for $1 million and change. But I have never felt wealthier than the day I became debt-free. All the success I have, all the money I made, and I believe it's true for everyone, you will never feel richer than the day you pay off that final whatever, the mortgage, the credit card bill, the whatever. It's transformational. That's really been the approach maybe for 7-8 years now for me, because I grew up in the wild, wild west days of this business. And it was all about Lambos and bimbos in bikinis and stacks of cash and rah-rah and hype and all of that. But maybe I haven't talked about how much I earned in probably 10 years. And I forbid my team from talking about it. And now I'm at the point in my life now where I do not discuss my finances at all. It just for security purposes. I just don't even go there. I'm just traveling to a lot of places in the world where, there's dangerous people out there. Right. But I just found that particularly the last 5, 6, 8 years, just changing the copy platform, if you will, in the recruiting pitch, from the bimbos in the bikinis and the Lambos to becoming debt-free. It's just transformed life.
Yes.
And just my experience of you, I just think over the last 5 years, how frequent this theme has been of you being able to do things for your parents, special trips and experiences. People say money can't buy happiness, but I've kind of amended my view on that. I used to say money doesn't buy happiness, but it lets you choose your form of misery, or money doesn't buy happiness, but it certainly helps you be miserable in a nicer car or whatever. But I kind of have amended my philosophy, and I say I do believe money can buy happiness if you will invest it in creating experiences and memories. So, I got my best buddy, Billy Looper. We both have we're like 10 days apart or something, and we're both the same age. So we're both about to turn 65 on our next birthdays back, in April. He's late March, I'm the start of April. And I'm already texting him now. What are we going to do for 65? We got to go to Fiji or Tahiti or Vegas or Prague or I don't know what. We got to do some monumental thing. We got to rent Madison Square Garden and have a party and raise money for charity, or what are we going to do? We got to do something. I was just talking to my sister last week. My mother really hasn't traveled in a while. And I'm like, but I mentioned to her I was on my way to Norway, and she's like, "Oh man, I always dreamed of going to Norway or Sweden." So I was asking my sister, "What do you think? And is she going to be up to it in the spring if we just take her to Scandinavia and have a trip? Would she be willing to do it?" Because I don't know, she's not crazy about travel, but we're exploring that, because I'm always looking for now. How can I create a memory? How can I create an experience? And money allows you to do that.
Yeah. Money, just a tool. No, you attach the emotion. And to me, if all you do is chase money, man, it's hard. It's not fun. It's easy to get greedy, and greed erodes the soul. But if you chase growth, and if you chase making a contribution in people's lives, if you chase helping people, money will chase you down so big and so fast. You'd be like, oh my gosh, where has it been? So I think that's a key. And then when you have more money, you have more options, and then no one has control or a say over your life or over your time. And it's hard to be happy and fulfilled, in my opinion, if other people control your time, control your life. So, in a sense, money can give you freedom, not the love of money. And I'm not in love with the dollar or the euro or the green. I'm in love with the experiences, with the options, with the freedom. That's why, and if I love when you say, Randy, get the money situation out of the way. Go become debt free. As a matter of fact, when you get to that point in the business where you become debt free, it's like, it's kind of like you're climbing a ladder and this ladder is leaning against this wall, and all you see is a wall. You climb, climb, climb. You become debt free. Maybe you go to the top level in your company, and then you reach a point where you go above the wall, and oh my gosh, you see stars and you see the horizon. You see so much more, and I think that's where you really can begin. And but I know so many people that money, they're a slave to money, whether it is they just got this preconceived ideas, or even people that make it. I mean, I'm happy you touched on it. I've known people that got to 50 and 60,000 a month and more, and their life became a bigger mess than they were when they're making 3,000 a month,
Yeah, yeah.
because they didn't save for taxes, they didn't save for a rainy day, they didn't think of the winter that always comes, they didn't prepare. And maybe somebody needs to know, Rainy, that if they make 10,000 a month, no matter, in some countries, let's say you pay 25%, 25% is not yours. So if you make 10,000 a month, you're actually earning $7,500 a month. And then you got to save. You always have to prepare. You got to be a good steward. So let's say you save 10%. And by the way, wealth building is more of a principle-based living. And as the time passes, it's just your disciplines that accumulate. So if you follow a few principles over a period of time, it's the money, the success, or whatever, or even the pain is the natural result that just happens. So 10%, if you save 10%, out of your $10,000 a month bonus check, now you're down at 65%. That's how much you make. You don't make 10,000 a month. You make $6,500 a month. Now, if you're a smart builder, you're investing in your growth. You're investing in your, in multiplying. So maybe $1,000 or whatever is, whatever your amount is that you put back in the people, in the growth. So now you're around 5,000 a month, 4,500 a month. So when you make 10,000 a month, people spend 12, and they every month that they increase their income, they're simply digging a bigger hole. But if you keep in mind whatever you make, it's maybe about half, because now you want to build wealth, and you want to build wealth so you can be a better steward, you can make a bigger difference, and you can be free.
It's the other thing that jumped out at me when you were talking earlier about the money thing was the credit, how easy credit is. I forget one of these episodes I was talking to someone about it, but I had just finished using all of my miles with some I think with Delta. I'm like, no, it was actually, I don't know, whatever airline. I used them up for some award travel, and I thought, yeah, I don't really have a credit card for that company. That airline, I should get a credit card there. And so I'll get points on my, miles on my spending. So they had an offer on the plane on my last flight home. They were, that's how they make their money. Airlines don't make their money selling airplane tickets. They make their money doing deals with credit card programs. So they had this deal for like 80,000 miles just for applying, as long as you buy at least a cup of coffee within 30 days from the card. So I applied for the card, and I applied online. It took me 90 seconds, and they said, you're approved. You have a $30,000 line of credit. I'm like, this is great. In 90 seconds, they gave me a line of credit for $30,000. I have credit cards with $85,000 line of credit. I have credit cards with unlimited lines of credit. Credit is so easy to get now, and it's just slavery. If you read the fine print on those cards, if you carry the balance, if you pay the minimum amount on a credit card, that when they're so nice and say, well, you owe $15,000, but all you need, your minimum payment is only $292. If you do that, it takes 42, 43 years to pay off that credit card. It's just, it's like they outlaw usury for the mafia, but they allow the credit card companies to do it. It's so crazy. So I'm glad we touch on this section, because this topic, because we got to increase the financial literacy in our profession. Because
I'll share one more thing
for
on the
me,
credit card.
I mean, I was a dishwasher, a cook, and I got into this business. I'm my education stopped in the middle of the 9th grade when they expelled me. I didn't have any financial literacy. And when I started making money, I spent it like a drunken sailor. And I'm glad I did. I went through those experiences. I loved buying all those exotic cars and watches and trips and all that, and I wish that for anyone. But I'm also glad that along the way I realized, no, I need to develop some financial literacy skills and, be able to grow my wealth, not just keep trying to add to my bonus check.
Another thing on the credit card debt, Randy, if I'm a farmer and I'm just working by hand, and I got this field and it can only produce so much, and I get a line of credit and I buy a tractor that multiplies my productivity immediately. And then that line of credit for me was very helpful in expanding my business and building wealth.
Right.
Now, if I'm not a very smart farmer, but if I go and buy a bigger big screen TV and newer phones and some nice couches, and then that's the way to bondage. So keep that in mind. But also, I think it helps seeing everything we buy. Either we're buying liabilities or we're buying assets. If we buy something that continues to eat our income or our money, then then we can't get ahead. I mean, you got to play offense and defense in wealth building. So be mindful of that. But if you buy another home, but I've got multiple properties, but it's like every time I buy something, how can it increase? How can it make me more money? Like I got, if I've got a few dollars, I'm like, okay, guys, go out, come back with friends. Okay, stay out for the, for the weekend, come back with more friends. So, but everything we're buying liabilities or we're buying assets. And if you think like that, you'll be more careful. But borrowing money to buy stuff that go down in value, oh my gosh, it's not. I mean, it's a sure way to just be stressed out and overwhelmed.
Yeah, we're filming this while we're in the postseason for baseball, so I'm actually watching live TV with commercials, which is something I never do, almost never, but I'm doing because of the baseball games. And the offers for cars and furniture and TVs and just crazy shit to buy on credit. And by the way, just legal notice, Andi and I are not giving financial advice. We're not financial planners. We're giving you prosperity advice, like how to be sensible with your money. And the other thing I want to say to this audience who are eavesdropping in on us right now, I hope they all really get, like, it's such a great analogy of, hey, if you take a line of credit and buy that tractor, which allows you to produce 10 times more corn than you can without the tractor, that's a great investment. Please don't take that analogy when some con artist, criminal, guru, or author, speaker, or influencer tells you to do that with some MLM crypto scam and says, oh, yeah, how much credit have you got on your credit card? Because we're paying 2.4% a day in interest. I'm literally just, Jaime and I also have a newsletter we put out called MLM Confidential, which you know about. I think you're a subscriber. And we have a section in there called The Dish, which talks about the scams and the Ponzi's and what's going on with different companies and things. And there's like 4 of them in this next issue, which is going to press in a couple of days, with these crazy crypto scams promising these things. And I'm telling you, the horror story, because they're totally infiltrated by organized crime now. This go global out there in, it was in Dubai now. I don't know if they're going back to Asia or wherever. They're just the criminals and narco traffickers, and and the stories of people who have maxed out their credit cards, taken their kids' college fund money, mortgage their homes, and put them in these crazy crypto scams and lost everything. It's just so, please be prudent. Read MLM Confidential, go to duplicationnation.com, protect yourself, inoculate your people against those schemes. So when we're talking about buying an investment versus buying a liability, don't allow the criminals and the con artists to conflate these crypto scams and Ponzi schemes. I want to be mindful of your time. I actually have a little time because my 2:00 with Turkey, they called me and canceled because it's a day of mourning there that I didn't know about, that they want to reschedule. You got anything else on your list that you wanted to chop it up about?
Yeah. This is end of mid-October. A few weeks we've got Christmas and New Year's, and that's my favorite time of the year, literally between Christmas and New Year's, because the phone doesn't ring much. And this is a time I'm big on reflecting. I love to journal. I love to write down. I love to think on paper. And I treasure the time. I mean, I've got twin babies now, but I treasure the time to be alone with my thoughts. And you can solve many problems if you can just get away and just think. And even better, have a pen and a paper, think on paper. But we mentioned earlier, all things are created twice and nothing happens by accident. And I know, having achieved what you have achieved, I know you've got a high value on planning, and I think the more time sometimes we spend in planning and and thinking things through, and sometimes the bigger the outcome. And for me, it's time well invested. And I would love to, maybe even as a friend, to know your personal thoughts on how you design, how you design the year, how you plan, how you set your goals. How I'm a believer. If you don't design it, you fit in other people's design, and that's not much a day. Not much of a life. So let's talk about that if we may.
Yeah, fascinating topic for sure. I'm doing a new dream board, which I have located right over there, which I won't show anyone because it's very private to me. But I just have 5 things on it right now, because I'm just doing the new one, and I have manifested so many of the other ones, the other things that I was looking to do. For people not familiar, you get a poster board or a frame or something, you put in things you want to do, have, and become. And it's the idea is it programs into your subconscious mind. Even when you just walk by and you see it the peripheral vision. It's still imprinting on your subconscious mind. So I do that. I always have something new like that for the new year. That's why I'm starting it now. So I'll have it all fleshed out for 2024. I do like to do a burning bowl ceremony on New Year's Eve, where you, and for people who are not familiar with that, if you go to my Prosperity TV YouTube channel, I have a video on that. I'll put a link in the show notes, actually, now that I think about it. But I like to do a burning bowl ceremony, kind of recognize the things I want to leave behind and what are the things I want to replace them with. I sometimes write a letter to my future self, and I get someone to mail it to me 5 months later.
I love it.
Yeah, where I write it on like New Year's Eve, like, okay, here's what I'm going to do for the first quarter. Here's my goal. And then have somebody mail it. So you completely forget about it. And then you put it in an envelope, you address it to yourself, and you put on the stamp and everything, and you give it to someone you trust to say, hey, mail this to me on May 1st or June 1st or whatever. And you completely forget about it. And then you go to the mailbox and you see your handwriting and you go, oh my God, I forgot about that. And you rip it open, and then you're like, okay, now shit's getting real. This is what you said you were going to do. How are you doing on that? So it's a way I like to challenge myself in that way. I'm maniacal about my daily self-development time every morning. I'm maniacal about exercise and taking care of my body so that I'm able to achieve, because I spent so many years struggling because my body couldn't keep up with my mind. And I just said, man, if I could ever just get healthy and have energy and be mentally healthy, I could accomplish so much. So now I'm big on that. I'm big on, I just big on anti-drama. I'm just, when people in my life show me they're driven by drama, I just recognize, it's just not a healthy person to have in my life. I don't want that kind of influence. So there's people I severely restrict access to, and then some people that I literally tell them, I'm sorry, this relationship is over. I'm not willing to expose myself to the kind of consciousness that you have. I try to say it in a loving way, but I do believe in, you have to protect your own consciousness first, foremost. And now I'm about, like I say, I'm more about the creating the experiences, creating the memories. I don't chase a number anymore. I have no number. I had a real huge reset in my life 3 years ago. And I just said, okay, I am not allowed to buy any more shoes for 2 years. I'm not allowed to buy any new car for 2 years. I'm not allowed to buy any clothes for 2 years. I'm not, and I did this for a long, long list of things, because I'm like, come on, I have 140 or 160 pairs of shoes in the closet. I have 80 pairs I haven't ever worn. I have like shoes I bought that I have Dwayne Wade Air Jordan limited edition. I never wore them once. I had some Marc Jacobs shoes that I found at this incredible store in Paris, and I was waiting for the right event to create the right outfit to wear. So I'm just like, no, I don't own my things, and I went through this, as you know, maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, 7 years ago, whenever I did my sabbatical, and I sold my place and sold off everything, gave it all away, and just said, I'm going to travel the world and work on myself. And then I came back and I felt like, okay, I feel like I'm still collecting too many things. It's too materialistic. Like, I don't own these things. These things are trying to own me. And so I said, I'm not going to buy any shoes. I'm not going to buy any clothes. I'm not going to buy any car. I'm not going to. And now it's been 3 years, and I've extended a lot of those things where the shoes I've changed because now I discovered this. You need to check these out. They're called Hoka, Hoka. And Ann Feinstein told me about them because her husband, David, got recommended them. And a lot of the coaches and runners and athletes are using them. And for me, I've had so many problems because of my spinal, condition that I was born with. So I walk different. My hip platform is off base. And so I'm always doing physical therapy and rolfing and chiropractic and stretching and yoga that's the only way I could still keep playing softball. And so I found these shoes and discovered they actually force me to walk better and maintain a better posture, and it's less pain. So now I went from no shoes and they're like $200 a pair. And so now I've spent like $5,000 on Hokas because I want to replace all the cool colors and different ones. So Feinstein has cost me a lot of money because of those damn shoes she told me about. And I've just, I'm probably going to buy a new car this week because trade in, sell. I have a couple of cars that are older now, and they're just, the maintenance cost is so high that I'm like, actually, it would be more prosperous to buy a new one because the Range Rover, literally, you do an oil change, it's $2,000. You do this, it's $2,000. You do that, it's $4,000. You do that, it's $8,000. I mean, it's just, so it's like, come on, I could have a brand new
Tesla,
Range Rover, Land Rover, whatever, and whatever. So, but anyway, I'm just not about the things anymore, the materialism things. Watches was another one. It's like, come on, I got rid of all the watches when I did the sabbatical. But then I look and I say, well, how did I get up to, 120 watches again, or 99 watches again, or whatever the number is? So those things just not driving me anymore. It's what's driving me is about creating a legacy. This duplication nation, this is big driving thing for me right now. Big driving thing for Jaime Loquier as well. We're just committed to taking the profession back from these con artists who are exploiting it with the Ponzi's and these other MLM crypto scams. And so I'm more about doing stuff like that. I went through another midlife crisis. This is my fifth one, I think, or sixth one, about 2 months ago. And I just said, I'm going to change the games I'm playing, shutting down my blog, shutting down my YouTube channel, leaving social media. I have these incredible clients that I love working with. I have my Prodigy Council coaching program. I have these corporate clients I adore. We're just doing amazing things. People in my Breakthrough You program. And it's like, I can't keep working at this level if I'm doing all this free content that, how many blog posts and podcasts and everything so I just said, I've got however many, 600 or 800 channels on the YouTube channel. It's there for anyone who wants that prosperity coaching. I've got literally more than 10,000 blogs I've wrote on prosperity and success and personal development. They're up on my website. So, I've paid my dues. I paid it forward. I paid back the blessings that were given to me. And so I'm just kind of filtering everything through lifestyle right now. And so I'm really excited about that. And so it's kind of a whole, this was really the subject of my Radical Rebirth book, as you know, and just reinventing yourself. And I joked in the book, like, well, I'm hoping I could have another 5 or 6 midlife crises before I go, because each time I do, I'm just releasing the parts of me that no longer serve me, and I'm replacing them with the things that do serve me. And so anyway, that's what's driving me at the moment.
I love it. So you have simplified your life, and in my whiteboard. So on my whiteboard, I've got, weekly, daily, monthly objectives, and then for the whole year. But on the very top, I have the question, how you living? How you living? Once you learn the skills of a particular business, if your heart is right, you do things with integrity, and you don't join, things that you would not call your mama about, but you really, a clear conscience is a soft pillow, man, and there is no amount of money that can compare to that feeling and that sleep. But the health for me as well, Randy, is huge. The priorities in life. Prior to 2014, I always preached, man, God first and family second, and then business. But if you look at my life, man, money and the business was really my God. And it was all about, and mine came because of I grew up with a CEO kind of father that had a very high expectations, and I had to be perfect to get love from dad. And it's crazy how the anchors, like, having babies now, sometimes a praise to a child, you can just see an anchor develop. I'm like, oh my gosh, it makes you wonder. It's like, okay, the anchor I have, maybe somebody did that, back then. And so, uh, but being mindful of just building a good life, and having lost a few family members and friends, and we all go through that. We're not promised tomorrow. And I think one of my very first books I read was Stephen Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. That was a hard read, but my mind said, do the hard, it gets easy. So I read that book multiple times. And with a
It
dictionary.
was very hard book the first time you read, unless I think for most
Yeah.
people, unless you're really at an incredible level of consciousness, it was very hard for me to read. But like you, my mind was just blown when I read that book. I was like,
Yes.
that really is one of the more impactful books I've ever read in my life, for sure.
Me too, and I read it throughout the years multiple times. And but in that book, I think it talks about, and I read his eighth habit, which was great. But on the seven habits, he talks about, hey, imagine you're driving a nice car, you're going through, and he paints a great picture, and the windows down, and beautiful spring day, and you pull up in a church, and then you walk in, you see loved ones, and you see friends and family, and you hear the music. So he's involving all your senses. And then you walk towards the front, and you come face to face with your dead self. And imagine you have a few people getting up and speaking. You've got maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a business partner, somebody from your team or your company, and maybe a neighbor, and just people that are important in your life. What message would you want them to share about you if they could speak? And it was so profound for me because I actually took the time and I wrote down everything I wanted, my parents to say, my friends, my business associates, my family members, my spouse, just I went through the exercise. And it was so liberating because I'm thinking, gosh, if I just live life like that now, based on that, there are no regrets. That's a beautiful life. Because I've known people that have made fortunes, but they have taken their life, and they live in miserable states. And if you don't live in a beautiful state, it doesn't matter if you have millions or you have more zeros in your bank account. It's the quality of your life and the quality of your emotions, and at the end of your life, it's really the relationships. So I went through that back in also 2014, going through simplifying, maybe with my midlife crisis then, or maybe it was God sending me a rock bottom experience, and most people avoid them like a plague. And most people don't realize that pain plus a little reflection can mean a beautiful life. And that breakdown that's sent your way, if you take the time and think and embrace the message, oh my gosh, and if you take the time to design from that moment, that breakdown can be the foundation of a beautiful life that at the end of your life you'll be proud of. But for me, made some changes where people come first, relationships, family. So for me, I'm a man of faith. God first, family next, and then business. And I no longer have to. I remember, because I'm so darn competitive. Whenever my company had announced the trip, my goal was not to be the number one. My goal was to have twice as many points as number two. Like, so I forget the number one is,
I
no,
wouldn't
twice
I
as
wouldn't
many.
know anything about
Right, right.
competitive spirit like
Oh,
that.
my gosh, my ego and my insecurities. I had to, the shiny clothes, look at me. I mean, look at the amount of points, look at my achievements, and just feeling empty, man. But there's a good TED talk in the, I don't know if you've heard it. It talks about the 75-year long research on what makes life meaningful, done by Harvard University, where they took a bunch of kids and they followed them for 75 years. Have you watched it?
No.
They followed the kids for 75 years. And they had to change four managers that kept dying or retiring. And then when the last I heard about that, or on the TED talk, it talked about how there's only a few of those people left, and they're in their 90s at this moment. And what they discovered is, through poor and riches, and the people that had the best life, the people that were the healthiest, the most joyous, and just good, meaningful life, and they died with a smile and no regrets, are people that had good, healthy, rich relationships.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. And seeing you get to this point, and I know you have made millions of dollars. I've read every book you have written. I've bought all your library. I mean, you inspired me. I learned the business from you and Jonak and Mastermind, and then a lot of people in the industry. But yeah, it's good to see you just think about legacy and a good life, and living well, because the essence of life is really is living well. And if you live well, I mean, you'll inspire the people, you'll earn well, and life's short. I mean, I don't know who said it, but the days surely feel long where the years are short.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, it's our new tradition. Whoever's on me every week, I say, I want to hear your worst rejection or your worst presentation nightmare that you ever went through. And what did you learn from it?
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Oh, Randy. So I had this 1 p.m. 1 p.m. came. It was my prospecting time. No matter what, I stopped what I was doing. The ringer went on my phone, and I am smiling and dialing, connecting with people. And when you do something long enough, it becomes second nature. And so I'm talking to this prospect, and I had Mexican. I had Mexican food for lunch, and I'm like hurting, and I don't know if I should share this here. It's crazy, but I'm in the bathroom, and the prospect said yes, and I have no laptop. I can't take the information, and I think they hear me, and they tore me a new page.
Oh,
And
no.
I was embarrassed. I can't
Unbelievable.
believe I even shared this, but hey, no filters, right? with me, what you see is what you got. But gosh, I've had so many, experiences, but yeah, now they're part of the story. And I've had friends quit on me. I've had friends call me names. I've had, loved ones that say, gosh, you have a pipe dream, and the worst thing is you don't even know it, and you're gonna crash. Get you a real job. I mean, I've had parents, that didn't believe in me back in the early days. I had them all. But in spite of that, I had a dream. I stayed true to my calling, to my purpose, and I did the do. And looking back today, those people, just know that they're wrong, but they're not part of the story. And the work is worth it. The journey is worth it. And ultimately, who you become, you'll be so proud of, and the amount of people you'll impact and reach. There is no amount of money that can touch the lives that you'll impact. Just like Randy, how you impacted me all those many years ago, and that ripple, man. I mean, I feel like I haven't even reached my prime yet. I mean, I'm not even halfway there, to reach, there's so much I'm called to do and be and give. But you were the spark. Certain people were the spark, and no telling the amount of people I'll serve and impact globally. So you never know. You can be that spark in so many lives, and by impacting one or five or 50 or 5,000, you can truly impact people in every continent.
All right, you guys listening, like, subscribe, share, comment. You got, like I say, the thing with Byron, this show as well, you got to get everyone in your team watching or listening to this. This will really move the dial for you. And duplicationnation.com. Andi, my friend, you are absolutely correct that the ripple effects of you are going out and being the spark for so many people. I know this episode is going to really make a difference for people. And I'm just grateful that you're my friend, and I'm grateful that you took the time to share your thoughts with me and everybody who gets to eavesdrop. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Randy. Love you guys.
Hey guys, I'm back, and I just want to thank you for listening or watching, and let you know, if you made it this far, you are a serious, credible leader. You're somebody committed to success, professionalism, and honing your craft, sharpening your saw. So I want to recommend a resource to you. It's a monthly newsletter called MLM Confidential. Leadership lesson every month, duplication lesson every month, something we call the dish, which is kind of the industry news, what's going on in the space, who's moving where, what company is shutting down, what company's opening up, what is the dish, the dirt of what's really going on behind the scenes that maybe the average person doesn't know. And there's a personal challenge every month. So check it out, mlmconfidential.com. I'll see you next week.